Haven't figured it out yet.
Huh?
Haven't figured it out yet.
Somebody needs. We will start this meeting, call this meeting to order, the Conservation Commission. My name is Carl Bischoff. We'll be following the published and posted agenda. This meeting is both in person and through Zoom. Hey, Chris, can you thumbs up that you can hear us? Chris Garrahan?
Pretty fine.
Looks like you're good.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Up.
And so if there is no Zoom, we'll continue without the meeting. And whoever else is on Zoom, please go to mute. Everybody on Zoom, please go to mute. Thank you. And so this meeting is being broadcast and recorded by Chelmsford Telemedia. Thank you, Chelmsford Telemedia. It will be available on their website and in YouTube. So first item on our agenda is the discussion on 59 and 61 Carlisle Street erosion issue, and my understanding is that is now moved out, not tonight, but another date in the future.
To be determined.
TBD. Okay, so we'll wait to hear on that. Okay. Second, next item is listed as Dutra Botello is looking for a request for guidance on proposed buffer zone work. David, do you want to give us a little background? Is the
Well, yes, I can just introduce.
Can you come on up to the podium? Thank you very much. Can you just give your name and address, please?
Hi, my name is Dutra Botelho, 60 Hunt Road in Chelmsford.
Thank you.
So my understanding is that Mr. Botello wants to just bring in some fill to his backyard and regrade it. And why do you want to do that, Dutra?
Because I got two young daughters and a nephew that lives in the house with me, and it's unlevel. And I got like a Hunt Road, that's a busy street, and they hate. But the area that I have that's level, it's close to the street, and I think it'd be safer for them to be on the backyard, you know.
So this is his lot with the wetland resource data layer turned on, and you can see that it's this is Beaver Brook right here. So there's riverfront area and a buffer zone on his property. So just nominally he has to file with the commission. I think the main question is, he's asking, does he have to, spend money on hiring a wetland consultant to delineate the wetland resource areas, and then, have a surveyor map the delineations and put them on a plan. He has submitted this photo right here, which to help I think a little bit orient the commission. So Dutra, what you want to do is you want to bring in the fill.
Yeah, I'll
here.
bring in the fill from the concrete area to the stack of woods that you see there, and level it up right there. That's how the area I want to do it. The grass area. I'm not gonna go into the tree areas, So I'm gonna try to level just the grass area that I already have.
So over on the other side of the wood pile, is that still your land?
It is.
Okay, so, I mean, it's hard to tell whether that's wetlands or not over on the other side of the wood pile, or whether it's just buffer zone. But in any case, the limit of work is, really defined by the wood pile, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't be
It
intending
is.
to go.
No, I don't need to go past to it.
Any
Only the grass area that I'm trying to level. It'll be plenty area for them to play.
So, I think the lawn, I mean, I can certainly go out and take a look at it, after he files. But I, from this photo, it looks like the lawn is buffer zone, it's not wetlands.
And how many yards?
So it's roughly estimated. I estimated like kind of like 10 trucks, it'll be like 200 yards of dirt, and then probably like 30 yards of fill. But it could be less. It's just like a roughly estimated. I did it myself because probably it's going to go up on the wood side about a foot, and it's going to be the whole length of the house probably, so that's the thing.
Okay, so questions from Mark? You got
That wood wall or wood, whatever it is gonna stay there? Is that what your plan is?
Oh, I can remove and put like bigger rocks to hold
What's gonna
I
hold the
can leave it
loam
there.
back if you,
So that's what I'm saying. I can put like bigger rocks in the place of the wood that will hold it, or you can do it like even a slope, or I can buy blocks and put it over.
it's really tough to make a determination on this, because I don't know how much, you say it's gonna be a foot. It's in the buffer zone, correct, David?
Yeah, that's what, without having visited the lot, that's what it looks like to me. Dutra, on this plan, can you show approximately where that wood pile is on this plan?
Can I show here?
Yeah, sure.
So here probably is my shed, and the wood pile is probably like across here, so the limit of the house. I'll say because the shed is here, and then I got an area that you can see on the picture that I showed you, they get the rocks, and it's right at the end, so it'll be like roughly around here, I'll say, like this further down.
So it
Okay.
looks like, so according to that, it looks like it maybe goes into the buffer zone at one point. And it's like,
It's gonna go because the plan is coming all the way to here and here, like square the area of the whole build, the constructed area for the house, and make a level all the way to the back.
it looks like some of it might be outside the buffer zone.
And David, when you mean the 25-foot buffer, not the other numbers?
No, I'm talking about, this, you see this orange crosshatching here? That's the 100-foot buffer zone.
Oh, all right.
On here, so, yeah, I'm talking about the 100-foot buffer zone.
Oh, all right. Oh, I thought, okay, I thought that, I
Yeah.
was like Peter, I thought it was something else. Oh.
But,
And my plan is to put like straw walls behind that wood, so any dirt won't go into the
Oh, okay.
conservation area,
It's tough to say. Normally, we want more documentation to this.
Yeah, it's just because I'm doing myself, I'm not working too, so that's the
Right,
case.
no, I understand. I'm not trying to make this any
No, I
more
understand.
expensive than it has to be. If you want to go out there, Peter, and make a determination, we'll go off of your recommendation, if you don't mind doing that.
yeah, I can certainly do that to some extent. I'm not going to go in where there's, a million ticks and
No, there's no.
delineate wetlands.
No.
What I can do is, and I've certainly done it plenty of times before, I can make some kind of determination of how accurate, this depiction is.
Yeah.
If it turns out that this is pretty accurate, then he can just go ahead and submit this map
Okay.
as a plan. You'd have to draw, do the best you can.
So draw the line where it's gonna be?
Yeah, to put it, as accurately as possible on this plan, where the wall, where the limit of work is.
Okay.
I mean, that shouldn't be too difficult, because you have the house is shown on here.
No, yeah, then I take the
as a-
measurement from the house, yeah.
As a reference point.
Okay.
So anything else, Mark?
Yeah, he's not building anything, so it's not that you need a setbacks and things like that, so.
Yeah.
If David's okay, I would, listen to what he has to say. If he thinks should go further, we'll go further. I'm good.
Okay. Peter?
David, I'm sorry, I missed the address.
60, huh?
16, huh?
60.
60.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. It's a little bit hard to tell, but if that line we're looking at is the 100-foot, that changes my thinking. I was thinking we're talking about the 25.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do my best. I mean, it's not always really possible for me to.
Oh, no, I
put a
understand.
Determination, but,
Right.
I think it's within my job description to try.
Your capabilities. All right, good, thanks. John?
No, I'm good with it.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, no, I'm
And-
fine.
And let's go to the Zoom. Hello, Chris.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I mean, it looks to me like an RDA, and we're not going to be, I wouldn't be too fussy about, having professional stamps or engineers, but it'd be good to have pictures and have a clear limit of work and make sure it's a buffer zone project and, just document it, come in on an RDA, I think it's going to be pretty clear cut. It gives us oversight, but we don't want to make a science project out of it. But those are my thoughts.
Okay, good.
So I'll be in touch, Dutra. We can set up a site visit, but in the meantime, why don't you go out and stake the length of the the limit of the fill?
Okay.
So on the wetland side, go out and stake that. I don't know, every 10 feet or so, so that then I can go out and that'll make it easier for me.
So you want me to stake just where I'm gonna do my project, or you want me to go beyond the wall?
Just stake where as far as you're gonna go.
Okay.
The limit of
No
fill
problem.
on the wetland side. You don't have to do the whole area.
No, it's gonna be to the woods, and then it's gonna be just a measurement of the house. So yeah, it's not gonna go beyond. It's not gonna go. I don't think it's only the grass area I'm planning on working.
Well, if you could
Otherwise,
stake-
it'll be too much thing to do.
If you could stake that line, that would be
I will.
very helpful.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you
Thank you.
for
Appreciate it.
asking and
Let me
coming.
know when you've done that, and we can set up a site visit.
Sure, I'll give you a call.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming
Appreciate it, guys,
before
for
us
the
and
time.
asking the question. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Not everybody does that. Okay, next we do our update with the planning board, and we see Chris is here. Hello, Chris. Good evening.
Good evening. So last meeting, we did close out two projects, 93 Brick Kiln and 270 Billerica Road. So we were happy that those large projects were done. This coming week, we are starting at 6 with a work session. We are going to be meeting with the proponent who is proposing an update to the Chelmsford outdoor lighting bylaw. And see what that is going to entail. And then also we're going to have a discussion with David Hedison on updates on recent and upcoming projects. For the planning board hearings that we've got coming up, we've got a new project coming before us on 150 North Road for a early education center. And then we've also got Hildreth. And also, we've got 110 Middlesex Street, Suite 1. I think that was before you guys, or was it?
No.
It wasn't,
At least-
okay.
At least not yet. I had submitted comments, departmental comments,
That's
that
right.
it might require stormwater review,
Okay,
depending on whether it's a change in use or not. I'm gonna have to talk to the engineer, well, at least the applicant. I don't know if he's
Okay.
got an engineer or not.
all right. It's not a change in use, but they are proposing a special permit for an existing non-conforming use.
Okay.
So.
I'll have to get a better understanding of those details.
Okay, and that's all.
Chris, the lighting proposal, is there a draft document, or are you just starting?
There is a proposal that was presented to us by, I believe it was Kelly, who was a big proponent. He has proposed a lot more strict lighting restrictions to help with the environment and things like that.
Right.
We do have a draft that we're going to be taking a look at this week, and it's linked in our agenda that he's proposed. He is proposing it not as a zoning change, but as a general bylaw change that would go to town meeting.
Yeah, and I think you guys understand this, but I feel like it needs to be said. It turns out that the lighting in our communities have a lot more negative impact on habitat than we all realized when we put up our lights. So,
Yeah, so he's proposing things like downward facing lighting and restrictions on illumination and lumens and things like that.
yeah, that's being done in progressive communities across the world, really.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks.
Chris. Appreciate the update. Regulatory hearings. First one we have here is a RDA for 11 Dalton Road. Chris, I'm not going to ask you to read it, given your concern with health. I'll read it if you want.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't want you sharing your problem with us over the Zoom.
Yeah, thanks.
There we go. Okay, pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, June 25th, 2024, at 7 p.m. to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by property owners Chuck and Penny Howell for proposal work within the 100-foot buffer zone in bordering vegetated wetlands at 11 Dalton Road, further identified as Assessors Map 72, Block 288, Lot 6. The project entails construction of a portico, deck, and patio.
So my apologies for not printing out plans. It just
Slipped your mind, huh, David? Yeah, okay.
too much going on.
We got copies sent to us, though, right?
Yes, although we have, there is an updated plan here showing the erosion control. So let Mr. Zulli give his presentation.
Okay. Yep.
Rob Zulli, I'm the general contractor for Signature Series Construction, representing 11 Dalton Road. We're looking to build a deck, portico, and patio 78 from the left of the house. The erosion control drawn on that, which I'm looking at now, is actually backwards. It's 35 feet silt sock from, not from the back of the house, from the wetlands, which would push it back, and then 50 feet from the left, which was a recommendation from David when we did our site walk last week together. He also recommended that we use like a 9-inch silt sock, and as long as we're not stockpiling dirt, everything looked pretty good to go, which we're totally fine with all those suggestions. We are going to be doing some excavation, and we're probably going to be excavating and removing and filling back in about 10 yards or so of material in order to prep for the patio. But we do use kind of a limited disturbance footing, I guess we use helical piles, which are kind of like screw piles instead of
Yep.
not going to
Familiar
have
with
all
them.
excavation and
Familiar with
dirt
them.
and all that poured in concrete. So
We like them.
that helps out a little bit.
Yep.
And yeah, questions for that or?
Okay. Sorry, David, you started out. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just the only other thing was, and I discussed this with Rob, normally or typically there would at least nominally would be a concern about, runoff from the patio, because the patio is impervious.
Correct.
So, I don't normally, and many times, the commission might ask to do something to manage the runoff, like putting a crust stone filled trench along the edge of the patio. But in this case, it's such a flat grade out there. I don't think that's necessary to do, at least in the beginning. Did talk about with Rob, monitoring it, see what happens, the first few, significant rain events. And I think if it turns out that the water is somehow channeling off the patio and causing erosion, then I think it can certainly be dealt with at that point. But I think, can sort of take a wait and see, a monitoring, position on this.
Okay.
Other than that, I think it's just a negative determination with standard conditions.
Okay. All right. Peter, you want to start us off? Any questions?
No questions. I was just going to make the observation that unlike some of the properties we look at, this one is not, on the banks of critical habitat. And so that kind of influences my thinking. That normally, if this were in the endangered species habitat, I'd probably feel a little differently, but I agree, David, with your sense. It's fairly benign, except for, keeping an eye on the runoff.
Okay. John?
I'm good.
You're good. Chris? Hey, Chris.
Hi, yeah. I'm good. This looks like a negative determination, so I'm good.
Okay. Mark?
I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, same here. David, you do order of conditions, just standard?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Watching the erosion?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll take a motion.
Oh, I make a motion to approve the,
Close the meeting.
I move to close the hearing, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
yeah. Chris,
Second.
motion from Chris, second from Peter. All in favor to close the hearing? Aye. Motion approved. So, motion for order conditions, standard conditions, I guess?
-3?
-3 RDA, maybe?
Yeah, -3, just with the one special condition, you might call it, just to, monitor the runoff.
Okay.
So
So, motion for -3 with special condition, so moved by Mark, second by Peter, all in favor? Actually, technically, we're supposed to do a roll call, so, Chris, when you're remote, we have to do a roll call vote, I just remembered, so, let's do it this time. Go ahead, Chris.
I approve.
Aye, okay, John,
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and I'm an aye, okay, all right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Rob.
thanks
I'll
very
be in
much.
touch. Thanks, paperwork's ready.
Okay, next up on the agenda here is the notice of intent. This is continued from May 28th, just about a month ago. This is 10 Hildreth Street, and we see Brian is here representing the applicant. Hello, Brian.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates. Excuse me. So we have submitted an exhibit plan and a brief narrative, and before I kind of summarize and go through the details, we did submit hard copies. I also have them with me if any commissioners need them.
Thank
but
you.
I think you have them, so
Everyone should have one.
Yep.
perfect. Now,
Appreciate that.
at the last hearing, we heard some concern about generally just our lot layout, right? So what we were proposing in the areas that we were proposing it, expansion of clearing some of the tree line and brush that surrounds the offsite vernal pool. And basically, we were kind of sent, or we continued with the expectation of just holistically looking at the site, kind of taking a step back and seeing what we can do to either eliminate or further minimize on-site disturbance within the buffer around that vernal pool. So we spent quite a bit of time kind of revisiting the project as a whole. And where we landed was a 4-lot configuration. Now, the 4-lot configuration that we submitted, the northern portion of the site remained consistent with previous iterations, and this new configuration, lot number 4, with lot 5 being eliminated, lot number 4 now contains the existing house. So we're proposing to physically pick up the house that is on site today and shift it to lot 4. Now, in doing so, it allowed us to do a couple of things. That footprint is not as deep as the duplexes that we were proposing previously. So by tucking it up against the front yard setback, we were able to pull that structure entirely out of the 100-foot buffer. So now with lot 4, we are exclusively using some of the previously cleared area as yard. And then there's a small corner of the deck that falls within that 100-foot buffer. So the entirety of the limit of work falls around the 75-foot buffer. So it's the outer 25 within area that's already cleared on lot 4. Now, in arriving at this configuration, I think it's important to kind of just talk about the lots that remain consistent and kind of the roadway that remained a little consistent. So we weren't able to physically move the road north, further away from the vernal pool, and reconfigure the 3 lots that are proposed up there. And that's simply an exercise of geometry. The subdivision regulations and zoning regulations require very specific lot widths, depths, frontage, and what we're showing and what we have shown consistently is kind of the best configuration that we can come up with to be able to fit those lots on the site and then provide for frontage with the proposed roadway. Now, as a part of the proposed roadway, and that's not really the purview of the commission, but it's kind of the bigger picture, is tomorrow night we have planning board, and we're going to be having kind of the same presentation and explanation of our reconfigured project. And one thing that we would like to revisit with the planning board is a waiver list that allows for reduced roadway width, elimination of sidewalks, elimination of curbing. At some point, the project goes from a subdivision with 12 units down to 4 lots, one of them currently existing, where we feel that the road is more of a driveway. It's an access point for a few houses. So by requesting those waivers, we may have the potential to adjust that roadway geometry, the physical right-of-way, and limit our disturbance further. Now, last week, myself and the applicant and our attorney sat down with David and Evan and kind of went through our revised plan here and discussed, different things, how we could come up with a better plan, or maybe enhance or minimize what we're proposing to do. And a lot of that conversation revolved around the roadway proper and the geometry and whatnot. And that's clearly under the purview of the planning board, not the commission. But a recommendation was kind of made or commented on that potentially the commission could work a little bit in concert with the planning board here, where we're trying to get at the same goal, to protect the resource area, maintain the project's kind of viability, and be able to have the commission support that waiver kind of list, if you will. Because everything that we're reducing within the right-of-way would directly affect the lot positioning of Lot 4. And where we're in the outside 25 feet of the buffer, maybe that yard could be entirely outside of the buffer. We clearly can't do that because of zoning as it stands right now, but it is under their purview. And David might be able to speak to that, the conversation that we had last week a little bit better. Now, some other key points on this plan. The entire balance of the land is now being proposed in a parcel X. So where we have lots 1 through 4 in the right-of-way, that's 3 acres, somewhere in that neighborhood. So the balance, a little less than 3 acres, is going to be earmarked or reserved in this parcel X. The parcel X is never to be built upon. We can talk about putting a conservation restriction on it. We can talk about potentially donating it to the community, having it under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. It could be retained by the Homeowners Association. But the key point is the land is to remain undeveloped in perpetuity. Additionally, on that parcel X, wherever we define adjacent to the parcel X on Lot 4, wherever we define the limit of work to be, the end of the yard, if you will, for this house, we can extend that same CR, that same easement, that same restriction on Lot 4 to make sure that we're protecting this 100-foot buffer. So we think a combination of these different approaches kind of gets us closer to where we want to be with respect to the vernal pool, trying to minimize any potential future disturbance, allow us to restore what was previously disturbed, and really minimize what is happening within that 100-foot buffer. So the goal for this evening, this is just an exhibit plan that we put a lot of time and effort into, but it is an exhibit plan. We wanted to get some indication from the commission tomorrow night, from the planning board, whether or not we're on the right track, whether or not what we're doing here is more in line with what the commission feels is appropriate, kind of within that buffer area and just for the site in general. Excuse me. Outside of that, one thing I will call attention to is at this point we haven't revisited our stormwater design. So there is a small section of 100-foot buffer, as was proposed previously, for an outlet pipe for the underground system. On the exhibit plan, you can clearly see an easement around it. It's the rectangle to the right of Lot 4 within Parcel X. We've indicated some kind of demarcation for that area. Essentially, we're going to be putting a stormwater outlet pipe. It's part of our design to mirror existing drainage patterns. It will only ever be accessed for maintenance purposes, and it will have signage associated with that. So it will be an area that's within buffer. It will be temporarily disturbed and then restored and allowed to be naturalized. And as I'm looking at the plan, one thing that I did fail to mention is we had a split rail fence that was proposed previously, kind of on this Parcel X. It was part of Lot 4 on the last iteration, but now fully within that Parcel X. We're extending that split rail fence across Lot 4. So there will be a permanent line of demarcation from where the yard is, where house activities can occur, and then where nobody's allowed to go. That is intended to remain, whether CR or easement or whatever kind of restriction that we can talk about. So at a high level, we eliminated a lot. We've reconfigured the project to have this reserved land, and we can talk about what to be done with it. We've pulled the Lot 4 house entirely outside of the buffer, which is the small corner of the deck falling within it. We've proposed a permanent kind of limit of work, limit of yard line that falls entirely within areas that are already cleared. There are no tree clearing proposed as a part of this. And again, if David could maybe speak a little bit to our conversation last week about potentially having the commission maybe give an indication to the planning board with respect to some of the relief that we're going to be requesting, if the commission feels that is appropriate and suitable for this project.
Okay, Brian, thank you. David, comment?
Sure. So certainly, I personally anyway, certainly appreciate the development team's good faith efforts and trying to satisfy the commission's concerns with respect to the buffer zone of the vernal pool. I think this is a little bit of an improvement, but I think it's really basically marginal. I think it's just really important to preserve the buffer zone to the vernal pool. If there's a way to do that with waivers, to get the house on this plan is shown outside the buffer zone, but if with waivers it's possible to move it even farther away and get the lawn as well. Outside of the buffer zone, or at least just coming up to the boundary of the buffer zone. I think that would be, a significant mitigation, along with, permanently protecting in some fashion all of Parcel X plus the portion of the lot that would be inside the buffer zone. Brian, could you give us a rough idea off the top of your head what the area of that protected region would be?
I don't have square footages on here. I apologize for that. So we're a little shy of 6 acres. Each lot's 20,000, so that's about a half an acre. We have 4 lots. There's 2 acres there. You figure about an acre or so for the right of way. So that's 3. It would be Parcel X is around 3 acres. But on our next iteration of the plan, we'll be certain to call that out. To David's point about kind of minimizing the yard or any of the actively used Lot 4, it is about 25 feet from the back of the house to the limit of work. That's the area that we're talking about.
So, and that's what you're going to propose to the planning board, that you could get outside of the buffer zone.
So what I'm
With
proposing to the
waivers.
commission is if they were to support a waiver request, what that allows us to do is tighten up the right-of-way by that 20, 25 feet, elimination of sidewalks, elimination of grass strips. We can then pull lot 4 the distance, and we think we might be able to get it entirely outside of the 100-foot buffer.
Again, if that can be done, again, I think that that's a significant mitigation. I mean, and just recall here that we're not talking just about vernal pool. There's also, rare species habitat out there. That to be able to have that habitat, permanently protected, legally, possibly at least some of it to be under the care, custody, and control of the Conservation Commission, that would, provide, the commission the ability to really get involved in, say, restoring the habitat, and maybe doing some additional survey work for, actual animals, and, conduct educational events about that.
Can you, I'm trying to follow, so can you restate what you said would be where you're looking for that change, what you were looking in this change? So we talk about having some kind of a protection of that parcel X and a little bit more of the other property, but you're talking about moving where this house is now on this plan further?
Right, I think that's what, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I think what Brian is suggesting is that, the house would be moved another 25 feet north, or away from the buffer zone boundary.
Okay.
Get the lawn out of the buffer zone as well, because that's roughly about 25 feet in width, right?
Okay.
Correct.
So
So and I can help maybe visualize
Yep.
a little bit for the commission. So the right-of-way line is right here. This is the cul-de-sac. So that's dictated by zoning. The authority having kind of jurisdictions, the planning board on that. Evan did confirm that they would be able to waive kind of the width of it within subdivision regulations. So anything that we could do to reduce roadway width, which is basically what we've shown, it's a 20-foot wide strip of pavement without sidewalks. The planning board could allow for a smaller definition of the right-of-way. And what that does is anything we reduce the right-of-way by, we can then pull this lot north. And by pulling the lot north, the lawn, the yard, if you will, follows.
Okay. And so then, therefore, that gets us a lot more out of the disturbing that area. But to your point, that gets us better, but certainly not 100%, because you're still in a upland vernal pool area.
well, but
is-
it gets it outside the commission's jurisdiction,
Yeah,
really.
that's right.
Which I think is all you can really hope for.
Yeah.
I mean, almost any scientific reference you read about vernal pools is that 100 feet is not enough.
It's kind of the minimum.
Nowhere near enough.
Yeah.
Not only that, this buffer zone is degraded, but again, that's all the commission's legal
Okay.
jurisdiction extends to.
Okay. Anything else you want to?
The only thing I would say, again, speaking personally, is that I'm not really comfortable requesting the planning board grant the waivers, or even in some way urging the planning board to grant the waivers. I think that's really kind of getting outside the commission's sort of lane.
Yeah.
But I certainly think, it is perfectly reasonable and appropriate for the commission to send, a memo or something stating, in fact, that to get the house and the lawn outside of the buffer zone to the vernal pool is significant protection,
Yeah.
of these natural resources.
And consistent with our bylaw.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, tie it to
Yeah.
what's legal.
It gets it outside the commission's jurisdiction, which is
Right.
really kind of a win for the commission.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add?
can't think of anything at the moment.
Okay. John, you want to start?
The single-family house, that's the one that's gonna be hooked to the sewer?
Mhm.
Okay. I think you've done a lot to pull it out of our jurisdiction. And anything you can do to further that, I'm in favor of. You know, if the planning board gives you a hammerhead, that helps. So, I'm good. You know where I stand with that vernal pool?
Yep.
From the beginning.
Yep.
It's part of the towns.
Okay. Anything else, John?
Nope, I'm good.
Chris?
I mean, I think this is, it's a better plan, and appreciate the time and effort to come up with a better plan. And I think, the applicant listened to our concerns, that we're quite concerned about protecting the buffer zone habitat for the vernal pool as well as for the endangered species. And so if we can get this, we can pull that back and get outside the 100-foot, I think that's a win, frankly, for conservation to have that. I think it makes this a much better project. So, I certainly would support, if there's something the planning board can do as far as mitigating the roadway width and take some actions that enable us to better protect some very valuable conservation and environmental habitat, I would certainly fully support that. So I'm glad that we're moving in a much better direction. So thank you.
Okay, Chris, thank you, appreciate it. Mark?
Well, I do appreciate what you've done too, and minimally brings it outside the buffer. There's no trees coming down, as you mentioned, right? in that
There's
area?
not.
But that's getting down a road and you come back with another plan. Is that still gonna work with STSs on the site for the other?
Yep, so lots 1 through 3, we already have septic designs testing, so we know the north side of the road is good. We had developed septic designs for lots 4 through 6. As the plan is shown right now with only lot 4, the existing house is on sewer. So that existing house is entitled to be moved and reconnected essentially. So the only septics in the project are on the northern 3 lots.
And if you don't get your waiver granted from planning, this deal's not gonna work, is that?
So right now, this plan would be kind of the plan we come back to you with if we don't get a waiver. We can look to increase the distance and minimize the yard further, but I have a feeling that if we don't have some kind of relief afforded to us by the planning board, there's gonna be a little bit of yard within the 100-foot buffer on lot 4. So this is our first stop, tomorrow night's planning board. If we could get, kind of and I think we're hearing it, kind of a positive indication from the commission, we can share that with the planning board and see where the conversation goes, basically. But yes, if we are not granted relief, then the next time we're before you, it's probably going to be very similar to this.
I think the proposed plan that you wanna bring outside of the 100-foot is pretty much like I think Chris said, it's out of our concerns.
Right.
That's all I have now.
Okay. Then I think if I've got this right, if I frame this up right, then I think what we're looking to do is continue our meeting, continue this hearing. I think we support this proposal to move the house another, I forget, 25 feet or whatever. Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
And then if the planning board, we're not putting pressure on them in any way, we're just saying, we're essentially saying, if you move it out of our jurisdiction, we're done. in a way, and the planning board goes with this.
Correct.
If they don't go with it, you're coming back with this plan that's in front of us.
More or less. We'll take a second look. We'll see if there are additional measures on Lot 4 to reduce the impact and pull that limit of work line, closer, maybe outside of the 100. It looks unlikely to be entirely outside of it, but maybe it's a little bit better than this. One thing that Evan had kind of indicated or asked if there's any kind of written correspondence that the commission could have to the planning board, even if it's abstract and not saying, we want you to grant these, more, we fully support the request for waivers to allow.
Can I?
I know we're tricky and.
Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
Can I make a couple comments?
Yeah.
Well, the first one was related to this. So you guys know where I'm coming from. This is a beautiful example of what's often called smart development or sustainable design. That is two different boards working together trying to say, hey, maybe those sidewalks don't matter in a smaller neighborhood, and that's not for us to decide. But the concept here that Brian describes is exactly what I hope the town can do more of down the road, is working out those compromises. And of course, remember, besides this idea of a potentially 3 acres set aside, Chris, as you pointed out, I think there still would be this turtle mitigation plan on the table. So, I mean, it makes it a better project. And I would all be all in favor of writing a letter, a short email to planning board saying something like, we support the idea of, taking a look at waivers because it does yield significant benefits to the town's goal for habitat protection or something like that. So I want to make that point. This is a thing out there, smart development. And then the other thing I just want to throw on the table, I agree with what everyone's been saying, but one thing we haven't mentioned that we did talk about before is how does this development change the hydrology? That is the water coming into the vernal pool. And notwithstanding John's point about where does water originally come from, the fact is our regs say you can't alter the hydrology of the vernal pool. Or, help me out, David, maybe they really say without mitigation, or I guess we could overrule that, but it basically says vernal pools are to be protected. Our regs give a list of 10 things, and one of those is don't change the drainage. So I would suggest that get a little bit more attention.
Well, of course, if it's moved outside the commission's jurisdiction, then the commission.
And maybe it doesn't matter.
Right.
So, right, that's why.
So Peter, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm not sure I want to go as far as suggesting that we propose that they adopt the waivers so much as I think
Correct.
we support the changes that take it out of our jurisdiction, period.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That, it's simple, and I'm happy to send that email to, I guess, to Deirdre, the chair, and I can do that.
Would you go so far as to add a second sentence that acknowledges there's an environmental impact or a benefit to our mission to
Yeah, I
do this?
think-
Not just that it takes it out of our jurisdiction, but that it does.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, I
and
think
it
that
is an
would be
improvement.
important, Yes.
Yeah, that's a good
I think,
point.
you know-
I'll word something on those
Yeah,
lines.
I mean, I agree, we can't push, it's not our job to push the planning board, but it seems like we could weigh in with that observation, that it takes it out of our jurisdiction and it's better. We don't have to say it's perfect.
Environmentally beneficial, something
I
like
think
that.
Chris can relay that message too. He's right here. He knows.
Yeah, but I'll send an email, so they have a document, because they want a document, so.
Well, yeah, it sounded like the ask was something in writing. You can verify that with
Yes,
Evan.
yeah, no, they do want something, right.
Yeah, I can do that.
But the key is really protecting our valuable resource
Correct.
areas and the valuable
Right.
values
Yeah, that's,
and that the buffer zone plays, and this is a big advantage to protecting
Right.
those values.
it moves it in that direction. Okay, all right. Anything else from anyone else? I'll take that on. I'll send it to the chair of the planning board.
Thank you.
And I'll take a motion to continue.
Well, you want to hear
Public comments?
Oh, sure, yeah, we'll take public comment. That's a good point, even though the meeting is being continued. Good evening.
Bruce McMaster, 6 Hilda Street. I'm to the north. And I appreciate the emphasis. I was an environmental science teacher in junior high for 35 years. That's great, but I'm on the other side. And as near as I can tell, those buildings are on higher ground, in fact, I know darn well they are, than my property is. So water runs downhill. Right now, that water runs downhill all the way from Barica Road and then down my driveway. And around my garage if I'm lucky, into my garage and breezeway if I'm not lucky. So when these guys get finished doing all this stuff, that water's gonna be added to the water coming downhill the street. And it's gonna look like a flood. Well, you've got historically the pictures of the back of Nate Montero's from Barica Road above him. That's what it's gonna look like, a gigantic pond back there. That's my concern.
Okay.
And the other concern I have, and I guess it's, I don't know if it's yours or the planning board's concern, is this septic system under driveways. That is a nightmare waiting to happen. You can't cut it any other way. Something goes wrong with that, you won't even know it until your drinking water's brown.
Yep.
And then you'll know it, and what are you gonna do? These guys are gonna be gone. So, that's my input. Thank you
Appreciate it.
very much for hearing me out.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep, we do have another.
Marcy Comtois, 24 Hildreth Street. Couple quick things. First of all, through all these meetings, there's been talk that this property is in part of the National Heritage Line, and to this date, has anybody seen anything from National Heritage about their thoughts on this building in the National Heritage Line? Nothing's been brought up at meetings other than that we still haven't heard from National Heritage. Number two, in regards to you guys wanting to speak to or make mention to the planning board, I've attended every meeting, both here. If you guys ask for a continuance, I get online, I watch the meetings, so I am very well versed as to what is going on. And when I saw these new plans attached to the planning board's agenda, the first thing I went and I was rewatched quite a few of the meetings. The very first meeting that this was brought to planning board, almost every member of the planning board has already stated that they were against giving waivers because we're talking about an already inappropriate sized road. Hildreth Street doesn't meet the requirements for a road because the road was built well past the 1950s. And you're now going to shrink another road to an inappropriate size. They were very clear at that point in time, they wanted a 26-foot road with sidewalks and granite curbing. This was brought up at multiple meetings. At this point, whether we shrink the project from 6 duplexes to 3 plus a single family, I would assume that the planning board still is going to, because there's also been made mention from members of the planning board that what are we going to allow people just to continue to build inappropriate sized roads so that we can get away with things and do different things. This seems to me that this is going to be, you know, we're going to stick to what they've originally said, which was 26 foot with sidewalks and granite curbing. But that's what was said back in September, again through October. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
What? What trees? Oh, okay, just quickly. Thanks to my dad. Okay, that's my father, Robert Cothier, 22 Hildreth Street. So, I'm trying to remember because there's so many things the last couple of days. So we look at these plans too, and again here, and we get the plot line. We currently have a problem with the property owner already taking trees out from areas where they're not supposed to be. In lot number 4, you have trees again in a property line. Who's to say the new owner doesn't just say after a couple years, I don't want the trees, they're an annoyance to my property, I'm gonna cut them down. And we're back to the same problem we currently are at now. We have a loss of trees in our 100-foot buffer zone, impacting our vernal pool. On the far side of the property in parcel X, there's tons of trees that have been cut down because the property owner that currently resides there or owns the property figures it's on his property, he can do that. As residents, we can call you guys and say, hey, they're cutting down trees, but when the trees are gone, what's going to be done? You know, you take things just went down. You take old, mature trees down, putting a new tree, you're going to be waiting 50 years before that tree is
Yep.
going to do what it needs to do.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else?
Could I speak, please?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you. It's Linda Carney at 17 Hilder Street. And I'd like to just remind everyone that we are doing anything and everything as a planning board and as a conservation commission to bend over backwards to accommodate this plan. There is nothing that says there has to be duplexes on this site. The lots aren't drawn, they aren't deeded. It's a contractor's fantasy. And if they simply don't fit, they simply don't fit. We shouldn't be putting things like sewers under driveways. We shouldn't be watching the flow of the land. We should be paying attention to the way the water flows and protecting the people's property that already exists. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Linda. Okay, anyone else? Anybody else on the Zoom, David? No?
No.
Okay, take a motion. So at this point, I think we're continue the meeting. So we'll continue it, I guess, to the next meeting, the July 9th? July 9th. Okay, I'll take a motion to continue to July 9th.
Do we need a motion for the email that you offered to write?
I don't think so.
I don't think it's necessary, but I think that that is needed for tomorrow night's planning board.
I'll do it before I leave the room.
Okay.
Otherwise, it may not get done, because I'll get busy with something else.
Then I move we close or continue the hearing.
Continue the
Sorry.
motion from Peter, second from John. All in favor? Chris, are you still with us?
Yes.
You are, okay, so we got to do a roll call vote. Chris?
Yes.
Okay, but John? Yes?
Yes.
Peter, yes. Mark, yes,
Aye.
and I for Carl. So, meetings continued, the hearing is continued until July 9th. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks to the folks visiting here tonight and online. Chris, you going to stay with us a little bit? How you feeling?
I'll stay for a little bit, but yeah, I'm starting to fade a little bit.
Yep. Appreciate your staying with us. It's great to have you here with us. Okay, next, we do have on our agenda, so if folks can keep moving, please. Keep it quiet in the room, please. Thank you. We have the Town of Chelmsford continued from October 10th for 48 Central Square. The DPW, David, you told me they are looking for a continuance to the second meeting in July, which would be
23rd.
the 23rd. So I'll take a motion to continue this meeting of 48 Central Square, Town of Chelmsford, to July 23rd.
I move we continue this hearing till July 23rd.
Motion from Peter, second Mark. All in favor, Chris?
Yes.
Yes. John?
Yes.
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 Peter, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, aye here, same here. Okay, that one's continued. Thank you very much. End of our regulatory. Next, we have continual business. This is the update on the open space and recreation plan. So we had a open house last week at the senior center. I would say good attendance considering the hot weather, and not the best publication of it, but we actually had 3 pages of visitors who signed in. We had a good group of presenters that were there. I really would like to thank, COS was there, the Land Trust, Sudbury Valley Trustees, NEMBA, Newhouse Wildlife was there, Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, the recycling, maybe recycling, was it recycling there?
Didn't see that.
I don't think they were. I missed that. Tree Committee, Grower-O, Merrimack Valley Watershed Council, Dog Park Advisory Committee, Age-Friendly Implementation Committee, and, of course, NEMCOG and Conservation, we were there. We didn't really have a conservation table, but we were there. So that was good, and also just a reminder for folks on the, that we do have a survey to take. Everyone in town should be taking it as best when they can. It is on the website?
Yep, there's a link to it on the commission's webpage now.
Okay. It should take 5 to 10 minutes, doesn't take long, quick survey about land use in town. So we're meeting again in a few weeks. We meet every once a month, so we're making progress. So anything else, Peter? You're in those meetings. Anything else to add?
No, I think, personally, I like the leadership that Northern Middlesex Government Agency is providing, the
Yeah.
folks working with us, and find that very helpful. And
Yeah, okay, good. Dave, you, anything, you're there too? Okay, good. So land management, let me give you some updates on first, the Warren Pole Reservation. Yeah, we have a CR approved by the select board. Dale and I were there last night. The select board approved it. We do have a couple of typos that Chair Wojas found.
Okay.
She promised me she would stop looking, because she said every time you look, you find another one.
Right.
So, but I appreciate what she's found, because I found one also in the meantime. So, I mean, they're not a big deal, but, when you say, go to paragraph 3, and it's actually, no, go to paragraph 2, not paragraph 3, or whatever. It's that kind of thing. So that's good. We're in good shape there. We still have to get the easement closed, and actually, we're meeting with the owners on Friday.
Yes, yes. So, but what?
Not that that's not that the CR is dependent on that, but I'd like to get that wording into the CR if we could.
Well, yeah, I mean,
We'll
that.
see.
Yeah, so was the timeline for sending it off to the state now? Was that discussed last night?
No, they're like, that's up to you and I.
Okay.
We can figure that out, yeah. Yeah, but I'm just saying, if we get the book and page number, whatever it is on the easement,
deed
it'd be
references.
nice to
Yeah,
have that,
yeah,
to put it in there.
absolutely.
If we wait a
that
week
would
for
be
that or something,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
fine, yeah. And I'm sure Dale would be fine with that. That's just more accurate information in there. We can submit without it. And then there was a question that I sent to you also that Pat also had about, there was a paragraph, and in fact, Dale said he's going to talk to their lawyer, Attorney Mullen, about this. And it has to do with some wording in there that we took off the template, that it's a good question. I don't want to go into it here, but it's just kind of a circular kind of a thing that I'm not sure I read it right, or,
Haven't had a chance to.
yeah. So we'll figure it out, and if there's something to change, we'll circle back on the circular thing, but it might be that Attorney Mullen might say, no, that's the right wording, it's the state wording, and leave it, so, okay. I hadn't actually paid any attention to it until she brought it up. So then we'll submit it to the state once all that's cleared up, and we'll be good. So the other thing on Warren Poll is that the CPC, we had our meeting last week, and they approved the $5,000 for Oxbow Associates for the wetlands delineation and the more detailed botanical review of the meadow. In fact, it's 3.5K is what the quote was. We know it may go over a little bit, so hopefully it's still in that 3.5K range. So that's good news. I don't know if it has the PO been, or the, did you get a chance to Paul?
Hoping to have Paul sign tomorrow.
Okay, good. That's it on Warren Poll. I don't know if there's anything else on that. I don't think there's anything else on Warren Poll. On Coulis, I can say that the CR has been initiated, because I took the Warren Poll CR and I saved it with the title Coulis, and I changed a few things, so it started. I can say it started. Still have to work on determining who our grantee will be. I've had a little bit of a conversation with Dale about it, but we'll see. It may be the land trust. It may be someone else. We'll see. And I have sent requests to both the state DCS, the Division of Conservation Services, and again to the Community Preservation Coalition for an opinion on having the wildlife rescue clinic on the property, which has been a lot of people looking to have that happen, but I don't want to go down this path of saying it will happen when the state is, in my opinion, just from my reading of the CPC, is that's probably not going to be allowed, but I need for somebody in the state to tell us that it's still possible, or no, it's not. So I haven't heard back yet, so we'll keep chasing that. At last week's open space, open house, I did meet John Ray, who's on that committee with you, so we had a good conversation. We'll probably get him to come talk to us. I know he wanted to talk about the the day-to-day maintenance of the site with us, so we had a really good conversation. He's a good guy, so we'll have some conversation. We'll get him here probably in July sometime. And I had talked to Mike Raisbeck a while back about having him also present the recommendations that you guys have done. I've seen them, but I think it's good to officially have it presented to the commission, so, unless you want to do it, but happy to, yeah.
That's his job.
Yeah. And Mike was very willing to do it. He just said, schedule me up, so. I would like to have the commission review the site, go do a walk around the site, all the parcels, sometime in July or August, something like that. I don't think there's anything urgent there, but I'd like to get that happening. And in the meantime, this is where we've got a young Chelmsford resident ready to go into environmental science school in the fall. He's helping David with double-checking the wetlands flagging on all the properties, double-checking what's there, what's missing. So he's out there getting ticks on his shoes and pants or whatever, but he was very enthusiastic about getting out there and doing this work. And so that's going to be done, so we'll have a confirmation of what's still there and what's not there for wetlands flagging, and that's part of the process of getting started on a baseline document review and report and all of that other stuff, so.
So I am in the process of working with a surveyor on a price quote for mapping those flags.
Okay, good.
So just getting that shortly.
Okay, anything else anybody want to ask on?
Is there anything time critical, John and Carl, time critical related to Coulis that,
I don't.
as we transition from
Yeah.
the task force to the Concom, other than the new house thing and what we just talked about, is there anything else that's critical?
I don't think there's anything short-term time critical. I think the long-term is just that Mike Raisbeck and Caroline Parley have these leases that are a year, but that's many months. So I'm
Okay.
other than that, I don't think there's anything that's.
Do the leases work like the leases work on Sunny Meadow?
These are just 1 year because they were authorized by Paul as opposed to the select board. So in order for them to have some opportunity for this year, he said he can authorize that, but it's just a 1 year, 12.
But further down the road, when it wants to be used more consistently and every year, is it the same kind of agreement, a lease agreement that, because Sunny Meadows isn't conservation controlled. This probably will be.
That's the conversation, that's actually the next item on the agenda.
Sorry.
That's okay, no, it's a perfectly good lead-in. So Paul had asked me, he's getting ready to write up a warrant article for the fall town meeting, and he was proposing that, there's properties in town that are owned by the town, and there's properties that we own, and when I say own, it's under our care, custody, and control. And it actually is a legal transaction that happens, it gets filed with the Registry of Deeds.
Well, it's supposed to.
Supposed to.
In my opinion.
Yeah, but it's part of a town meeting vote.
Right.
And so we've done this a number of times before. We've had a number of properties that have moved from care and control of the town, the select board, to us. We had a number of them on Freeman Lake a couple of years ago. Paul's recommendation is Warren Poll to get transferred to us now that the CR is nearly submitted and going to the state, and hopefully gets turned around and gets signed off. We had said that we wanted that to be done through the select board first. Once that's done, even though we did the work, that after that it would come back. And so by October, it would be nice if the state had replied and we were in good shape. If we have to push it off or something, that's fine, but at least he could put it on the agenda. But he also mentioned Sunny Meadow and Sheehan Farm, which he and I had a brief conversation about that, but I was a little surprised he was talking about putting it on the town meeting, because I'm not entirely enthusiastic about taking on Sunny Meadow and Sheehan Farm, because they're Well, there's a lot going on in both
No, I'm
properties.
I'm
There's,
just surprised that he's mentioned that.
yeah, well, so part of it was that when they asked us to take on Coolis, I had the conversation with them where I kind of said, well, okay, the CR I understand because we've gone through the conservation restriction process. But if Coolis has a multi-use thing, then, does it make sense for us because we don't have that for Sunny Meadow? And I think he took it as meaning we wanted to have it all. And I'm like, no, I'm looking at it the other way around. I'm not sure I want to take that on. So that's kind of my comment here on the agenda, was just to talk about that. But then in the meantime, David gave me an email that he had got about a number of properties that John Souza had brought to his attention. John Souza Jr. being the town finance director and treasurer. And so I'm going to shift stories a little bit here, but it's in the same general space. There were 4 properties that John mentioned that are just small half-acre, quarter-acre, 2-acre properties in town that were the town acquired through foreclosure procedures. Let's just call it that. 2 of them, they're in the 2010, 11, 12 timeframe generally. And 2 of them were at the same time, I think, and 2 were random other times. And they're mostly wetland, and I can share the information and the details with you, but they're mostly wetlands, if not all wetlands, on 1 or 2 of them, from just quick looking at the GIS. And his proposal is that those properties come under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. And his reasoning, it's an interesting thing. He said that there are many times, or a handful of times over the years, where a piece of land, the taxes don't get paid, and it goes under foreclosure, and the town ends up with the piece of land, and then they own it, and then someone comes along and offers to the town to buy it, either through auction or something, or makes, some recommendation. And he said, we've actually sold a piece of land to someone. They end up finding out they can't build on it because it's almost all wetlands, which they should have known, but not everybody understands that. And they end up going into foreclosure on it. They say, I'm not paying these taxes and whatever. And it ends up back in the town's hands. And he's like, that just cost us money for the transactions. He said, this makes no sense. And he said, if they're really never going to get built on, let's take them off the table, put them into conservation, and be done with it. And I'm like, I think that makes a lot of sense. So as I'm looking at these 4 properties, this was just yesterday, I think, or this morning, I noticed one of them, there was another piece of land right next to it. This is right near the country club, and the town owns it, and it's in the exact same situation, except that it was acquired when the country club land was bought in 1995-ish. Does that sound about right for the country club property? And it's almost all wetlands as a single parcel. There's nothing on it, and I'm like, well, that one should be too. And then it becomes kind of we've had this discussion with the open space plan, what else in town like that? So to me, anything that's already in the town's ownership and it's got a significant amount of valuable wetland resource, we should be looking at moving. So my recommendation is that for these 5 parcels, I'll get back to Warren Pole and Coolis in a minute, or the Sunny Meadow, but for these 5 parcels, because they're virtually undevelopable, and by the way, they're mostly wetlands, so we don't really want anybody coming before us trying to build, like we've been talking about, on a property that's barely buildable. So let's just take it off the table, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So I think what I'm going to ask is, I'll get that information to you guys maybe for the next meeting, so you can see this ahead of time, look at it, make your own decisions. I'm giving you my point of view, but then Paul can put those 5 parcels on. Maybe we'll find more on the town meeting. And I don't think this costs a lot of money in terms of legal fees or anything to move this kind of thing. It's pretty trivial. And then it becomes protected land forever, and we don't see this problem. Going back to the Sunny Meadow, Sheehan Farm, and Warren Pole, my opinion is Warren Pole's a no-brainer. It's the family wanted it to be a conservation reservation. We're making it a conservation reservation. It's up and running. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Moving it to us just is kind of the way it was always planned to be, from what I understood from the beginning. On the other hand, Sheehan and Sunny Meadow, I'm open to thoughts, because, and we don't have to decide tonight, and I'm not actually looking to necessarily, Paul may want us to decide, but I don't believe he has to finish articles till probably August or even September. So I'm open to thoughts, ideas on that. I know Sunny Meadow has, let's just say, a lot of baggage, a lot of, there's a lot there. There's
a lot going on.
Sheehan's a little cleaner in that it's,
That's,
yeah,
Sheehan's it's hayland.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what it is.
although it could be, you could also add trails in there. If you're only gonna hit it twice a year, you could put public walking trails in there, which,
It's odd.
yeah,
You start getting garbage and.
yeah. So, yeah, but that one's a little cleaner in that Sunny Meadow has so many things going on. There's
It's
big nasty
agricultural.
compost pile there, which has been there for a number of years, and
Is that something conservation wants to do?
right, that's not really our
No.
sweet spot,
So can I throw a couple ideas out? See what y'all think. First of all, would these properties be the tip of the iceberg? Aren't you working with John Sousa or somebody, you mentioned a while back, to identify, get a better feel for all these little small properties like this, the little landlocked parcels that we're not even sure who owns it, the way it's listed in the town GIS? So isn't there an initiative or a discussion about straightening out who actually owns what and who manages what? And is this the beginning of a bigger
So you started out
initiative?
saying I'm on Sunny Meadow. I'd put Sunny Meadow
Did I say Sunny Meadow?
aside, but for those.
No, I'm thinking,
Those
sorry,
four,
forget Sunny
yeah,
Meadow,
for those,
just-
yeah, for those 4 or 5 parcels, yeah, that, what it turns out, I was not aware that in the 2017 open space plan, that Katie had done a detailed deep dive on all the properties in town, and as I understand it from talking to Evan, and Dave Sperry was on the committee, that they did a deep dive on all these properties so that we know exactly what is owned by conservation by parcel number. That's fact, as opposed to, so if it says town of Chelmsford on the GIS, but the spreadsheet says it's conservation, it's conservation. What's not clean is that the GIS, if that's the case, I'd like to get the GIS title changed so that it says conservation, so that you could run a report. Then I'd like to see a report of town-owned property that is not owned by conservation, that has no structures on them, no buildings. And those would be ones that I would like to look at and say, should we own it or not? And that might be 5, 50, 100, it might be none. I don't know what that is, and I'm not quite sure how to find that set.
Right.
Well, and whose care, custody, and control are they under?
Yeah, if it's school committee, I don't, fine, done. Yeah, well, unless they somehow have random pieces of property that have no buildings on them or whatever.
I think if they daisy chain existing property, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
But if you find a parcel in the middle of nowhere,
yes, but if it's in the middle of nowhere and it's, we don't want anybody to develop it, moving it to us would mean it never would get developed. And that's about the end of it. We have a lot of those properties. I was surprised how many we already have.
Well, there's
like
an
that.
awful lot.
Yeah, there's
Of all these categories.
Yeah.
There's probably 100, isn't there, of these little
Yeah.
half-acre and 1-acre orphan, I call them orphans, left over from when the
Yeah.
development first went. Well, the second thought,
So let me I think what I want to do is through the open space plan committee, that's one of the work products I want to do in there is get that picture so that we can see everything, what does the land trust own, what do the water districts own, what does the town own, what does the commission own, and, get that so we can do a much more systematic view than, it's now very random haphazard.
yeah.
You
and-
stumble on it.
Well, that's kind of why I meant by the tip of the iceberg, because to my way of thinking, this is sort of a foundational first of probably many steps, and let me tell you where I'm going with this. The master plan and the current open space plan says this commission is supposed to develop land management plans for all the parcels. And if we got to the point where that was happening, I would advocate a land management plan for all these little orphan parcels that, like you say, nobody really knows about.
Could be very simple.
Yeah,
Could be.
and then related to that, and I'm almost done, related to that is the previous open space plan that Dave Sperry worked on, strongly, as I recall, recommended the town form an open space, I guess, and recreation committee specifically to help with land management plans and manage these parcels, which in my mind would be reporting into the Conservation Commission because we hold the legal authority. And if we thought we were going in that direction, that would be a further reason to start this consolidation that Paul's recommending, including Sunny Meadow, which
Yeah.
is probably too much for this commission right now to take on.
Agree, yeah.
Because but if we had a separate organization of, people that wanted to pay attention to these properties that we could then work with, then I wouldn't be as concerned about trying to dig into Sunny Meadow, because,
Yeah, it's,
so that's sort of my thoughts. If you want to look further down the road, if you think we're going to go this way, possibly, then it makes sense for this organization to do that foundational work, to start, following Paul's lead and
okay.
organizing this stuff.
I think, like Sunny Meadow, that's under open space, okay? And it takes on the recommendation of the Agricultural Commission to grant what you can do on the property. So there is a chain of command, okay, on open space, with the right to farm law in the town of Chelmsford.
Yep.
And we do have a right to farm law, and we do have an agricultural commission.
Yep.
So I know what they want to do out to Sunny Meadows, but there's a lot going on out there that you guys don't know about that,
Oh, yeah,
okay? And I know they want to reel it in.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know the best way to do it.
yeah, I know.
And I while you,
I,
John, and again, if I could just say this, when I look at Sunny Meadow, I think that, despite all the little nuances and all the little whatever is going on, at the end of the day, isn't that what we're trying to do as a commission? Community outreach and education, and make these get people out into open space and, smell the roses.
Well,
that's a.
So the
all
reality
have the
is,
same
that's
goal.
a super popular site. There's a lot of
is.
people
Yeah.
there.
This-
It gets,
Yeah.
I think
That's
on
a
our
good
open
thing.
space survey so far, it's been our most popular site so far. It's early, but,
Yeah.
Sunny
but it-
Meadow?
yeah, yeah. Well, there's community garden, is a lot of people involved
There's-
there. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of things happening there.
There's a lot of cool things
yeah,
going on
yeah,
that we
there's a
don't
lot of
even
lettuce
know
being
about.
grown out there.
Yeah,
Lettuce.
a lot of lettuce.
Not all of it
Okay.
organic.
So I just wanted to get this discussion going, get you kind of aware of some of the things going on. So I think what I'm going to do is go back to Paul and say, right now I'm pretty comfortable that we'll have a little more formal discussion at our next meeting about Warren Poll and those 4 or 5 property, I think it's 5 lots, and maybe something else will come up in the meantime to have those put on a warrant article. Sunny Meadow and I don't see us right now wanting that. Maybe someday, like to your point, maybe someday, but like for him to put it in an August or September draft.
Well, forgetting about any of the issues or whatever that seem to be lurking at Sunny Meadow, you could also, I'll just throw this out there, I don't know if it's a good idea, you could also say to Paul, yeah, we'd take that on, but we need some dough for an outside consultant to help develop that land management plan with all the stakeholders and not to leave anybody out.
Or a second David Kuntz as a
Right.
land.
Yeah, you're gonna
It
need
could
more.
really be a full-time job for somebody.
So I
Seriously.
did look
Seriously.
at some.
You don't want that day.
Some of the towns are posting, we get emails of the postings for like conservation agents in various towns and assistants to agents, and I'm reading their what do you call it, their job postings. And a lot of them are like, be out there and clear the trails, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, David, you're not clearing the trails. You need to get out there.
He's blazing trails, but he's not.
Yeah,
clearing.
blazing trails, yeah, so, okay.
Directing it from a higher level.
Yeah.
But think about throwing that on the table when you talk to Paul.
Yeah.
That as the community
The
grows,
scope is,
as the community grows and as more and more people are interested in these properties, it's becoming a management job. There's a job there, doing these land management plans and then working them. There's a job that's being done ad hoc.
I want to go on record. I feel as though the land that the conservation owns should be passive recreation. I'm not in favor of anything else more than that. I know you like agricultural,
Right,
stuff like
yeah.
that, but I like passive.
yep,
That's all I want to keep it at.
That's why I said the two pieces that cool us, that are agricultural, should stay under the control of the Agricultural Commission.
Yeah, that's not my first choice.
Right, I understand. And Sheehan's is just, it was strawberries until the deer decimated the strawberries. Then it was corn, and he had to rotate crops. Now it's hay. And it's been hay and hay and hay. And
Okay.
that's
yep.
what goes on.
Thanks,
To
John.
me, haying the property only maintains it.
It
I don't care
maintains
if- I don't care if anybody makes $100 or $1 million. It's just for maintaining the property.
That's correct.
And I was so happy that you were able to agreed to make Warren Pole a passive recreation. I know you had some different input from different people that didn't want that to happen, but I'm glad you made that happen.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Appreciate it.
I
Good,
agree.
good conversations, and I appreciate all your input. Peter, anything on the Russell Mill tree situation?
Yeah, I went away for a week and didn't put the signs up.
Okay,
but we'll
okay.
get them there.
Okay, good.
Yeah. When I did walk through there, although this was about 10 days ago, it did not look like it had gotten significantly worse, although it's hard to tell. There's so many trees tagged.
Yeah, well, it's a lot greener.
Yeah, and we all talk to people when we see them there, like the bike people and whatnot, and nobody's really,
Yeah.
I don't think there's somebody there like every day
No, I don't.
trying to chop
I
down
think
all the
somebody
trees.
had a bad day, although it was a lot.
A couple bad
a day,
days.
well, a bad week. The only other thing I want to add that's not anywhere on here, but last night I watched I was here for part of the select board meeting, is the KP Law is now going to be the town council as of July 1st. So the Haverty Town Council will move on. This Friday will be their last day, although he's committed to a transition. But KP Law was our town council about 7 or 8, 9 years ago, something like that.
And had been for quite a while before that.
Yeah, prior to Haverty, so they know us. They already do some work in town already, so this is just, we'll have them across.
And I've worked with them for years. I know them very well.
Yeah, okay.
Is there something that I assume you're managing this, a transition of any of our legal stuff from
So
one to
actually,
the other? You're sort of
yeah, it occurred
got
to
your
me.
finger on that
It
pulse?
occurred to me that the CR, the Warren Poll CR, it might not be a bad thing to say, can you take a look at this and just tell us if there's something
We'll
glaring?
find typos.
Number one, number one. And number two, see if they have a read on this new house, because they have a lot deeper,
Yep.
I think a lot deeper, experience in that space from what I read on their
Yeah.
website,
Yeah.
on this new house CPA question, so.
Yep.
Can I just jump in here? I think I said this last time. I'd suggest we ask the following question. Not, does the state allow it? Which is a good question. But the second question is there a way around it? Is there a creative way around it? Because you hear about surrounding towns are building high schools on conservation land. I don't know if they had a CR or not. There are ways around. So if you ask a state regulator a question, that might not be the right answer.
Well,
There may be a creative way in the regs that's legal, and that's what we want a smart attorney to help us with on the Newhouse story. Not just not to denigrate the state people, I don't mean that at all. I'm just saying, you know how this works. There's often a way around a barrier.
yep.
So
Yeah, I don't know if that kind of a question is appropriate for an attorney.
Oh, I think it's totally the attorney.
Well, except they don't, it's not really their job to tell you creative ways around the law. You know, it's their
Oh,
job.
really?
The attorneys I know.
Oh, really?
You tell me where you did the crime and I'll tell you what to say.
Yeah, there are plenty of private attorneys.
Yeah.
But I, at least KP Law, I know them well enough to know that they're just gonna, I think
They're not gonna,
they're gonna likely give a yes or no answer, may, possibly a maybe, you know, depending on this, depending on that, but
what about some of the lawyers we've run into at MACC?
MACC. Yeah, some, you know, maybe a private organization, but I would think that the Stuart Saginor's organization
Yeah,
would be the one that
I
would.
pinged him again today to get a response. He's responded a little bit, and he hasn't really been a hard, like, give me an answer. He's kind of, yeah.
Doesn't
I
sound
need
like
to
he
get back
really
to him.
wants to touch it.
Yeah, I need to get him to be a little more definitive, and so, okay.
Okay.
Let's keep moving on. Anything on your agent's report?
Just a quick update on, you're aware that there's kind of a minor enforcement issue going on with a new house being constructed at 348 Boston Road. There's one where they started the house in the buffer zone without approval from the commission. Did an after the fact filing of an RDA. Was down there with a number of people from building department and DPW on the adjacent property. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, noticed that at 348 Boston, that a lot of fill has been brought in to create a steep, you know, high slope, and that's eroding. It blew completely through the erosion control. So I asked the builder to restore the erosion control back to proper working order, submit an engineered plan for stabilization of the slope. Again, this was 3 or 4 weeks ago. He said he'd do it right away, or at least restore the erosion control right away. Somebody from DPW went down and looked at it last Friday, said absolutely nothing has changed. So I told him, I asked the building inspector to put a cease and desist on any work on the house, you know, pending correction of these.
That'll grab his attention.
That doesn't sound like Gino.
No,
No way.
it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Now, he subsequently sent me an email saying, well, he did restore the erosion control. Well, that wasn't evident in the photos that, you know, the DPW guy took. So I guess I'm gonna have to go down and take a look at it myself. Do it as soon as I can.
I don't know.
Who's doing, is he doing his own site work? Is there another contractor in there?
I think it's him. Well, I mean, he called in someone to like pour the foundation or whatever, but I think now.
Yeah,
now
but
it's
who
just
did the
him.
dirt work?
I don't know.
You don't know who brought the fill in?
Not that it makes any difference.
It doesn't make it,
Yeah.
a lot of times it does, Mark. You
I
know,
know.
certain guys, if Dave comes down and says, hey, you gotta fix this, they're gonna fix it.
But the GC,
Because they don't wanna stop a $1 million plus house from being built.
right, but
right,
the GC should have his finger on that.
Right.
I built enough houses, right?
I know that, yeah, I know, and I agree 100% with you that.
Well, you know, I actually did, in the meantime, have spoken to the engineer. He said he'd get me something shortly and, you know, for the stabilization of the slope. So, you know,
Dave, what's the environmental impact? And that's the one that's right along the little wetlands on the edge of the
right,
Russell
well,
Mills Forest.
right now, it's just on the outer edge of the buffer zone. I mean, certainly not an environmental catastrophe, but there's such a hellish amount of fill that was brought in that it's got to be addressed, otherwise it will.
And that's what, a couple hundred yards from the pond, if I remember the map correctly?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's
from-
enough
from the
stuff.
pond
I
itself.
mean, it's not like running sediment.
There's
into
a
the
long
pond.
ways to
Yeah,
go, but
right,
it's
right.
in
I
that
mean-
direction.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Got it.
there are wetlands, there are
Well,
BVWs
in
in
between-
between
in
the site
between,
and the
yeah,
pond. So,
Okay. Anything else?
Did the building inspector put a cease and desist on
he
it?
did, yes, yes, he did.
He did.
Yep.
I had a
Think of anything else?
question from just a voice about the any progress on the Freeman Lake surveying and deed research. I think,
Well, and I think I probably got the same. So I sent an email out today to the person who asked, saying that the commission agrees with my recommendation to the first thing to do is the title exam to make sure that, in fact, the town does own that property. And I mean, it's partly because, you know, often with these lake shore parcels, the ownership history, the title can be kind of murky to begin with. But I was also recently told that down on Russell Drive, you know, that comes in off of Route 40, that there was a parcel there on the lake side of the road that for many, many years it was thought that the town owned it, but one of the private property owners in the area said, no, I own it, and was able to prove, I guess through a title exam, that they in fact did own it, and the town conceded that.
okay.
So that's really the first step, and that's been delayed a little bit by the town council transition.
Yeah, okay.
So she seems good with it.
Oh, okay. I actually got it from an interim person who
Okay.
might have been sitting right here at one point.
Okay.
And the lake study at Freeman, we had a
I
talk about
haven't heard
that the other
any-
day, but I assume that's moving forward.
I assume it is too. I'll get an update from Christine.
Yeah,
on
I
that.
can ask her next time I see her. But I assume everybody's comfortable with, we're waiting for the experts to answer
Yeah.
our questions.
So far, I haven't heard any complaints.
Great.
Okay, so yeah, I agree with, we have new town council, so maybe we'll come up with a list of like, can you do this, and
Yes.
this?
Yes.
Can you read over this CR? Can you give us an opinion on this, and can you do these deeds? Okay.
And the enforcement actions,
Yeah, oh, right.
59 to 61 Carlisle and 35 Brick Hill.
Yeah,
Ask a question.
yeah.
Did you award a contract for that homeowner that wanted trees cut down? Do you remember we recommend we get 3 bids?
No, not yet.
Farley Brook.
It turns out that maybe Christine has to approve that, if it involves taking down public shade trees in the town's right-of-way. So I'm actually meeting with her on site tomorrow for her to take a look at that. But that actually does remind me that today, I issued an emergency order of conditions to take down some trees at 27 Old Stage Road that the homeowners are very worried about. And I went out and took a look at it. There was a reasonable concern.
Okay.
So I did approve that.
Okay. And next is the 75 Concord Road Certificate of Compliance, 129-0832.
Yes,
And
so
you
that's
said
actually
that
a
you-
relatively recent one for a change.
Yeah, I think we did something on this like 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, it was started, but then for whatever reason, it died. The one that's the COC is being requested for was issued back in 2016 by the commission where the property at 75 was subdivided into the existing house and then an additional building lot. So that was for approval of the construction of a new house, which I think is now 77 Concord. But the assessor's database has still not been updated. Still
that
shows
Cross
it all
Marina?
is one lot, so I don't understand what's going
Behind the
on.
old Cross Marine, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, it's
When
like-
Miller built.
Yeah.
So yeah, back a couple of years ago, the owners of the new house filed for to build a swimming pool.
Right.
And that's where it came up that there were some issues that still hadn't been resolved with construction of the house and that order of conditions. Recently, 75, the parent house, the parent property, came under agreement to sell. So they want that certificate of compliance. And what I said was, well, if the new house in the new swimming pool order of conditions, if they're in compliance with that order of conditions, because a number of the conditions were virtually the same. I said, well, I would recommend that the commission issue the certificate of compliance for 75, and I have since verified that they are in compliance. They've delineated the 25-foot no disturb setback. There was some riprap or crushed stone that was required to be put at the end of the driveway for drainage. So I recommend the commission issue the certificate of compliance for 75.
Okay, I'll take any conversation, any discussion on this?
No, I'm good
I
with
think
it.
I remember there was some surface water issues there, wasn't it? Wasn't the older house, the one out front pumping water?
Well, no, right, that's a good recollection. Yeah, no, that was actually the new house. They had a sump pump
Oh, okay.
in the basement that was, I guess, working like 24/7, to the point where it had actually expanded the wetland
Right,
delineation.
that's right.
So that the 25-foot no disturb setback that was originally there, before the house was constructed, now had moved toward the new house, but they have since moved the sump pump.
Right.
It's not having any impact to the wetlands
That
where.
was 10 years ago?
What's that?
That was 10 years ago? Holy man.
Almost.
And you remember.
We had a hearing on this, though, more recently.
Yeah, more recently, yes,
Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah, when they put the pool in.
Just I want to check,
Yeah.
Chris Garahan, are you still with us?
no, I don't think he is.
Do we know when he dropped?
It was a while ago.
Yeah, I thought it was a while. I know he said he was fading, so, okay.
So, Commissioner, we need to vote a motion.
Yes, I'll take a motion to approve the recommended certificate of compliance for 75.
You can't make a motion.
I'm requesting a motion.
Oh,
Maybe I did, maybe I said that.
I move we approve the
75
certificate
Concord.
of compliance for 75 Concord Road.
Motion from Peter,
Second.
second from John. We have, there's
All in
four.
favor.
Okay, we're all in favor?
Aye.
We got enough? Yeah, we have enough.
Yeah, we
We
have
just,
enough.
just made it under the, okay. And that's what this is?
Yes.
You
sorry.
No, you're
just signed it after we voted, Mark.
signing over your deed,
Okay.
your house.
Press down hard.
It's got three
all you
copies. I haven't heard that one in a long time. Press hard. Old school on the mimeograph. Okay, that was it on there. So now we have meeting minutes. We have our wonderful meeting minutes lady has given us minutes for April 23rd. We can knock these off tonight. I did look at them, and they look good to
I
me.
make a motion
I
to
actually
approve
saw,
April
wait a minute,
20th.
there's one slight change. I think when we looked at the, this is like really, really minor. What are we talking about? Yeah, on page 8, Willis Drive Conservation Land issues. Speaking of Willis Drive Conservation, isn't it a dock, not a deck? Aluminum dock?
Yes.
Okay.
Aluminum dock.
Yeah, so if you can change that
Aluminum,
dock instead
aluminum
of-
deck dock?
Yeah, aluminum dock.
Deck dock.
There's two places where it shows up in that paragraph. But other than that, it looked fine. I mean, I'm nitpicking there. I am nitpicking there, but I'll take a
It's a
motion.
legitimate one, though.
Huh?
It's a legitimate one.
Yeah, totally. It's
Totally.
a perfectly good word.
Make a motion to approve April 23rd's conservation minutes.
Second.
Motion from Mark, second from Peter, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes
That'll be as
unanimous.
corrected.
As corrected, yes, as corrected. Thank you. Motion as corrected, yes. And the only other thing I have here is that our next meeting is July 9th. We have a July 23rd meeting, we have an August 13th meeting, we have an August 27th meeting. We do not have a 3-week cycle. If you think about, we occasionally have 3-week cycles, gaps until the end of October into November.
Really?
So we're, on 2-week cycles. And so I asked David the possibility of having us miss a meeting this summer. Let's create a gap.
Well, that
Sabbatical.
may
sabbatical.
sort of need to happen anyway, because in the Community Development and Planning Office, there's new carpet being installed. And I think right now, I'll double check, but I think right now, the scheduled date is, or the scheduled time is like that same week of the 23rd. And so it's really, I
Good
think
time
the
for you to
plan
take
is
some
that.
vacation?
What's that?
A good time for you to take some
Yes,
vacation?
yes, at least some time off. I think it's sort of, I'll double check with Evan, but I think it's sort of gonna be forced on us,
Okay.
because I'm not gonna be able to use the office of, obviously, while they're replacing the carpet.
And this gives us, right now, talking about it now, gives us enough chance for you to plan with any applicants.
Yeah, and I don't have any filings for the 23rd yet, so do you want me to?
I'd say, I'll ask the rest of the commission, but I know we're never upset if we end up having a little summer sabbatical. We have in the past done it.
Didn't you
I know-
continue a hearing to the 23rd? The DPW,
Oh,
that was July
We can
23rd.
adjust that.
That's not a huge issue.
Good catch, but we can adjust that, I'm
I
sure.
don't care,
Are we
but
talking
yeah.
the
Yeah, no, that's good point, but it's.
July
Did
23rd?
you say July 13th?
I
23rd.
So,
Our next meeting is the
July
9th.
23rd,
July
yes.
9th.
Oh, maybe no meeting?
Sorry, I thought you said the
Yeah,
13th.
That's what
I might have
what
said
we're
the wrong
talking
date,
about.
but
No, I
July
probably heard wrong.
23rd, so,
That could be in limbo. 23rd.
well, we'd cancel it. That's the point, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And I can't imagine you're gonna complain about that.
No.
Oh, okay,
No, no.
okay.
What are we
okay.
gonna do, Mark?
He's gonna come here and sit in a quiet
27
room.
that day.
Pub.
Okay, so why don't we just make that a decision? And I guess in a way, if your schedule in your office changes, we're still gonna take the week off. And
Okay.
I think it's good for everybody to do that and take a break.
all right, so that one's done. Okay.
Done? Everybody in agreement? Everybody nodding? I mean,
Yeah,
I can't imagine,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm good.
I think it's good to take a breath. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion,
Second.
all approved, yeah, okay. Thank you, Chelmsford Telemedia, good night, say good night.